good afternoon or good evening or wherever the heck you guys are calling in from. My name is Eric. I'm the head of sales over here at Commsor, and I've got some beautiful people talking about some beautiful things today, and that is around go-to-network as we see it today, both in pipeline generation, progression, and then some little fun facts that you guys don't know about go-to-network. I'm going to quickly introduce my favorite people probably in this world, but quick to my right, left, or wherever she is at on our screen is Ash Zacks. Ash, she says it best. Sales isn't a job. It's a creative endeavor where storytelling meets strategy, and every conversation is a step forward towards growth, either in revenue, skills, relationship, or all of the above. Her mantra, build genuine connections, challenge the status quo, and never stop learning. How you doing, Ash?
Great. Happy to be here.
I love it. I love it. My always favorite question, I've always wanted to know, where do you buy your socks from?
Where do I buy my socks from? I
Yeah,
actually
I've always wondered.
I haven't bought a pair of socks in a really long time. But I guess when I do, I'm a snowboarder, and so smart wool socks are legit and like they last a long time and keep my feet warm when I'm up at the mountain. So I get smart wool socks and I
There
buy
it
them
is.
from REI usually. Yeah, there you go.
Plug it in. Plug it in.
Oh,
Love it. I love it.
I'm not wearing
Well,
smart wool socks today though, but I will show you the socks I'm wearing today because I don't
We,
have.
we are going a whole different
this
route
is
here,
the best
y'all.
thing ever.
I have never been on a panel where we're showing socks and feet.
Welcome, man. This is what happens when they give me the mic. But great to have you, Ash. I'm super excited. I know you know the GTM model better than shoot most of us, so I'm really excited to pick your brain. To the right, left, or wherever she is on our screen is the other Ash, also known as Ashley. Ashley has over 12 years of experience, and she's seen it all. A fierce advocate for women and working parents in the workplace. And when she's not keeping up with what actually works in selling SaaS, she's either playing roller derby, badass, or petting her dog or chasing her other two kids. I love it. How you doing, Ashley?
I'm good. I'm actually sore from roller derby last night. So
I love it. Well, tell us, how did you get into roller derby? Quick blurb. I want to hear about that.
it was a long time ago. So once upon a time, no, I'm just kidding. I started doing it because I thought it would be a fun way to exercise. I was actually selling eyeglasses at the time. So I have like that non-traditional background where I was selling in a retail kind of world. And one of the roller derby skaters came to pick up their glasses the day after I had seen the movie Whip It. So I was like, oh, this looks cool. They got me tickets. Tryouts were like the next week, and I ended up making the team and being really bad at it for years, but got got better and better. So that's how
That
it
reminds
happened.
me of that reminds me of selling. I'm just really, really bad at it. Well, not to say the least. The man, the myth, the legend. He's number two on my speed dial, but he's number one in our hearts, Mr. Adam J. Adam is LinkedIn startup top voice, CEO of Revenue Reimagined, the co-host of Bridge the Gap podcast. Plug it in. With over a decade of experience of driving over $200 million in ARR and scaling some of the top B2B SaaS companies in the country. Adam's an expert of helping founders bridge the GTM gap and build predictable and responsible growth. He also likes me to say that he is single-handedly responsible for my entire career, so I have to plug that in. Adam J, how you doing, my friend? Great to have you here.
I mean, I was wondering whether you were going to say it or not. I won't take credit for your entire career, but I'll take a smidge of credit for some of it. I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm happy to be hanging with two of my favorite people and you.
I love it. I love it. You know what? Besides the entire GTN notion, which isn't how probably we've all connected, what is some of the fondest memories, Adam, that you have besides connecting with me that you've probably leveraged the go-to-network motion for?
I mean, if you look at anyone, let's take sales out of it. Anyone I know who has gotten a great gig lately in any way has done it through go-to-network. They are leveraging that network, leveraging people. I have to be careful with my words because I get yelled at when I say skipping. They are fast tracking the application process and getting a direct introduction and getting hired before that job even gets posted.
Talking. Now we're talking. Ash, when you hear the word
I know how
referral
you
or
got your job.
which one? When you hear the word referral or warm intro, what's a definition that comes to your mind, Ash? Like when you hear that, define that for us in the audience.
Sure. So I think that's it's an introduction made by somebody like in your network who has another connection that you're trying to build trust and credibility with.
Credibility. You know, they say that trust is 9/10 of the law in sales. And so when it comes to the go-to-network leverage, would you agree or disagree that using go-to-network in the sense of connecting those who know each other, would that bypass a lot of the nuance that sellers are dealing with today, which one can argue is probably where we're dropping the ball in sales?
I don't think it's going to bypass it completely. I think you do still need to show up, add value, and prove yourself as somebody who could be a trusted advisor to that potential customer. But I think it helps give you a boost over that wall that is there. Like people put up that wall, like a buyer does not want to talk to a seller. Um, but if somebody can refer you in and make a warm intro, they're basically like, boosting you up to the top of that wall that's already there.
I love it. I love it. Ashley, what are some ways that you felt maybe this become applicable in some of the deals between generating pipeline or progressing it, that you've felt that boost, that getting over that first hurdle, so to speak?
I think one of the most important things when you're starting a new role or when you're, building out a target account list or all of those fun things is to lean on people like advisors or investors or executives at your company, people who have that like automatic authority almost and have those
Mm,
connections. So I feel like regardless of if it's a cold set or you're trying to push a deal along, having somebody who the person you're trying to sell to actually trusts say like, hey, you
Mhm.
should talk to this person is just it's invaluable. So it's something that can be used at every single stage of a deal, not just like, hey, I want to talk to this company, but I am talking to this company and we're talking about this and they have concerns about this. Help. And that goes a long way.
I love that. You bring up a good like misconception about go-to-network, and that it's not just used for pipeline generation, pipeline progression, right? Like when we bring in the economic decision maker or whoever that needs to be to influence or progress that opportunity is another good opportunity to leverage your network. Adam, from a sales leader perspective, man, I would love to hear from you in the sense of when you look at your team's pipeline or maybe a client's pipeline or whoever that may be, how are you kind of officiating or finding avenues to leverage go-to-network motions?
Other than using Commsor. It's funny you say it though, like shameless plug, but for all of our clients, whether they're using Salesforce or HubSpot, we actually have custom properties that we're using to track how many of these are coming from a go-to-network motion, specific introductions. And if not, we're trying to figure out why. We typically do hour-long blocks every week where we're leveraging the entire C-suite to actually make those introductions, whether it be call, email, LinkedIn messages on behalf of our sellers.
It's incredible. I love that. And thank you for the plug. I didn't have to do it for you.
Always.
Ash, talk to me about some tactics. I know you've gone above and beyond in both, searching for the right role, but even just connecting to people like through it, your own personal relationship building. Like what are some ways that you've gone and tactics you've used to establish connections?
Um, yeah, that's a good. I don't like the word tactics because I don't
Felt
think
weird.
that building relationships should be like, here's the playbook and steps you should take to
Mm.
build authentic relationships. That said, um, for those who are like just getting started or like are kind of afraid to do this, and I think that's one thing to address is like, way back when I was working at Bravado, like that was the hardest thing was to like just get people to ask for referrals from their network, to reach out to people in their network that they knew, which was interesting because like you clearly have already done the work with these people, so it's okay to like ask for things. Um, so yeah, I think just being genuine and like I think I've done a lot of work in my own brand building and I've led some like trainings on that, both internally and externally at different places. And I think that's part of it is like if you just show up, right? Like you just keep showing up as your authentic self, whatever that means to you. Like, what are the things you care about? I know Ashley cares about working parents, like, talks a lot about her family, talks a lot about women in sales, right? She's got her like core pillars that she creates content around. And so it's not that she's like has a tactical playbook of like how to connect with people. She's just showing up every day as genuinely as herself. And then the audience builds itself. They come to the people will come because they are looking for that kind of content. And I think that's how to do it. There again, I'm kind of anti like tactics or whatnot.
Yeah. No,
I want to no, I want to interrupt you because this one's important. I want to triple down on what Ashley's saying. If you look at this as a tactic and like here's the playbook to go connect with people, everyone's going to be able to tell that you're unauthentic, and that defeats the entire purpose of this. Like I could send Ashley like, oh, here's my script and how I introduce myself to people, and like they're going to know, right? Like this isn't you. Like it's not going to work. That is the mic drop moment of everything that's been said and will be said.
Thanks.
So-
In one of my first jobs, I worked as a marketing coordinator at an ad tech company, and I went to a conference called VidCon, and I talked to YouTube creators. And one of the things that they told me about building an audience was exactly what I just said. You just create your content, the thing that you care about, whether it was a kid who was like reviewing toys, or these two scientists who like talk of all things science, or this one person I talked to who did nothing but book reviews. Like it like ran the gamut of topics and interests and whatnot. And it didn't matter. As long as they were staying true to who they were and what they were interested in, the audience builds itself.
I would like to add to that a little bit too, because I know we're not talking about social selling on this. This is about networks, but there's a big component of it that we're all kind of fringe speaking to, which is building that audience. And I think you could replace network with audience in this case, because those are going to be similar things. And there are different tiers of it. There are people who want to talk to me because I advocate for parents. And then there are people who want to talk to me because I'm a salesperson and I've done that for a long time. And so categorizing like the different relationships that you build is really important. And if you are a frontline seller or someone who's a founder who's trying to build whatever kind of audience they can pull from, you need to also make sure that as you're creating this content, you're kind of sprinkling in a little bit about what you're actually doing for your day job. Because I'm not selling my current product to working parents intentionally. That's something I just really care about and I'm not going to shut up about. But I also have a job where I need to sell something. And so I am intentionally building connections with people who are in my ICP and like in my specific field of work, which I think is like the other side of that, because you have to find the balance between building an audience and a network of people who care about things that you care about, and also having people who are going to be professional, like professional only type people. And sometimes there's overlap, and that's the like really beautiful part. If you can find somebody that you can do business with that also cares about the same things, that's like the sweet spot. But I just want to call out that there are different types of audiences, and as sellers, we kind of have to account for that.
You're bringing up a really amazing point, and that's driving the awareness, right? You're putting yourself out there. The authenticity, I can't say that word, is the driving mechanism behind the go-to-network. Now, where I've heard many people say the blocker for their team or themselves to building that is delivering the confidence of putting themselves out in a pretty vulnerable aspect of things, right? Like building content, building audiences, putting yourself out there, leaving yourself vulnerable for a number of different circumstances. I'd love to hear, Adam, as a sales leader and many times over, how is one of the best ways that you would encourage people to either drive and establish that confidence so that they can leverage themselves in vulnerable moments?
There is no best way. I think this comes down to initial conversations and initial trainings with sellers and the leaders that you're asking to do this, about what the purpose is. Going back to what Ash said about like, we don't want anything other than authenticity here. I'm not going to write this for you. I know, so there's different views here, right? Some people are like, oh, ghost write it for me and I'll send it. I don't want to ghost write it. It's not going to sound like you. Like, I'll give you some pointers of what I'm looking for, but it's really important that it comes from you. And I think when you encourage people to be authentic and be themselves, it allows them to bring down that wall and allow themselves to be vulnerable of, oh, like, this is an awkward message to send. Like, yeah, if I tell you to send, hey, Eric, like, I'm the CEO at Revenue Reimagined, and I know that you're talking to Ashley and like, she's great and the product's great and buy it tomorrow. Like, yeah, it's probably a little awkward. But if we highlight just a couple things and we make a authentic connection, and the connection and tying people together is the goal, it's a whole lot easier to be more vulnerable.
I'd be interested to hear from Ashley and Ash, and I'll start with Ash, just in the sense that, like, Ash, a lot of your content lately has been beautifully articulated about the things that you're going through and a lot of those manifestations and really that strongholds that you're conquering today. How are you finding the confidence within yourself to continuously put yourself out there, which is driving a lot of that audience, to Ashley's point, right? Like, you're just simply putting out what you're passionate about and what you're very, very poignant in your life about. How are you finding the courage, or even just kind of compounding on the courage to continue to do that?
I think I have always been the kind of well, first of all, it's interesting that folks are intimidated by creating content or putting themselves out there or asking for a referral and putting themselves out there. We're in sales. It's a very, I mean, we get rejected every day. It's a vulnerable role to be in. So like if you can handle cold calling people or emailing people and getting rejected, this is like, first of all, not everyone's going to see your post. Don't, you can't stress about it, what you're putting out. Some people aren't going to care about it. That's okay. It's really not that serious. Uh, the other thing that I'll say that I think is a benefit for me is before I got into the tech world, even my first marketing job, I was a dancer and a performer. So putting myself out there and being vulnerable and in front of a lot of people that's how I grew up. I grew up dancing and performing. I was in a musical theater company. So that hasn't ever really been a big hurdle for me. But I do get it, that it can be intimidating and overwhelming. And there are definitely moments when I feel like, oh man, should I say these things? Like what,
Mm.
is it, should I do that? And usually when I have those feelings, I'm like, either then I make the decision, I just make the snap decision of like, yes, of course, do it. Or, okay, no, maybe I won't. And I just don't post or whatever. But I try not to think too long about it. And it also helps when I see people. I love making introductions for people. It is one of my favorite things. It brings me so much joy when somebody's like, do you know so and so? And I'm like, yes, I do. Let me make an introduction for you. And so I just think of that and like when I can do that for other people and how much joy it brings me. And I just kind of try to put that as like, this is probably how it's going to be for this person, hopefully, I don't know.
I love it. I
Yeah.
love it. Ashley, go. I know you're about to jump off mute. I was waiting for it.
Yeah, I think I agree with everything Ashley has said. Also, she's still a dancer, by the way, just in case anybody was wondering. She's still doing all of that. So I'm going to toot her horn a little bit. She's great. But I think as far as like tactically making intros and feeling like you're asking for something that makes you uncomfortable, we need to reframe that mindset. Because if you are truly selling something to a person that needs what you're selling, you're helping them. Like we shouldn't be asking for intros for somebody who's just a random contact at a random company who has nothing to do with the problem that we solve. If we're doing that, then yeah, that's awkward. But if we're actually doing our research, making sure we know they have the problem that we can solve, we're actually helping them. And people are more than willing to do those intros. When you reframe that mindset, it's not scary because you're not asking for something. You're not like, hey, can you give me $1 million? You're like, hey, can you introduce me to this person who could potentially help me and I can help them? It's a mutual thing. And I think that's like the key thing for mindset shifting is like you're not a burden. And I know we've talked about, Ashley and I have talked about this, like you're not a burden. If you're asking for a referral for a job, they're probably going to get paid for that referral. So you're actually like potentially even giving them a couple extra $1,000 by like asking for that referral. So do it, right? And if you actually solve their problem and it makes them look good at their job, like you're helping people. So I think that's just really important.
And say it, right, Ashley? Like when it's, whether it's job or certainly like in sales, like I'll often start a message with like, hey, I'm reaching out because I think this could be beneficial because of this. Like it's not, oh, talk to this person. Like I know you're looking for this, or I know you struggle with this, and I thought Eric could help you out. Just wanted to make the introduction.
And
People
that's why it's
appreciate
so
that.
fun. Yeah, it's so fun to make those intros. Like Ashley was saying, like I love making the intros because it's so fun to be like, oh, these two puzzle pieces fit and I can do that. And that's cool. So yeah.
I think you guys bring up what has been lost and what was once upon a time in cold outbound was like the genuine sincerity about reaching out to that individual. Now we're sitting here pressing the freaking button, hitting as wide of a net as possible. And so going back to that, the actual delivery, right? The intention behind it is essentially the driving force, which actually instills me, and I'll speak for myself, the confidence to reach out like, hey guys, I would love to make this introduction. I can't wait. Like I genuinely am excited, which I think is the overall census here. It's that if it has good intentions and well-being and an aligned aspect in some sort of capacity, confidence is right there with it. So I think that's amazing. Adam, I want to tag on you because you and I connected early on in my sales career, and a lot of it, had to do with that intention behind it. What's one of the fondest memories that you have with leveraging a go-to-network connection or emotion or maybe just sending out that initiative?
I thought you were going to say what's one of my fondest memories of working with you, and we were going to be here for. No, I'm kidding.
30 seconds. No.
So listen, I love leveraging my network, whether it is for people to sell, whether it's for careers, whether it's for anything in between. If I have to really pick one, going back to our days at that company, we had a BDR that worked for us that just wasn't good as a BDR, y'all. Great human being, wasn't good as a BDR.
Fantastic. Fantastic.
Promoted him into a marketing role. Crazy founder, laid him off, and helping him get his next two roles warmed my heart because he was such a good person. And this founder wanted to just fire him because he wasn't a good BDR, and like having the opportunity to put him where he would shine and let him shine and then help him continue down that path. That to me is like, that's go to network. That's helping people.
Ashley, I see you nodding your head. Is there something along the lines that you do have like a fond memory of leveraging the go-to-network or making an introduction or generating pipeline? Like no hold off barred.
I mean, I have examples of all of these things. I'm shaking my head because I literally got the job that I have right now because I leveraged my network to get it. So I have been that person who found myself unexpectedly laid off last year and needed help. And I leaned into the people, and that I tried a couple of blind applications. No. The only reason that I was able to like very quickly get a job was by leaning into my network. And actually, like to Ashley's point, other Ashley, being comfortable enough to say like, hey, I don't have a job right now. Like that's really scary to put out into the world, especially with what's going on with the tech layoffs and all of that. So like I've personally experienced being helped in that way, which is why I was like, yep, that's great. But I've also done things where I've made connections. I have a friend who is looking for a job in SaaS/nonprofit, like something that they can feel really good about. And I have made a couple of intros to them recently. And even I don't know how they've panned out, but just getting them in the door to have an interview is really huge right now. It just makes me feel warm and fuzzy when I'm able to make that introduction because now it's on them, and I know they're really good. So now they can actually like shine and have those conversations. And that's the hardest part right now is getting in the door.
I used to have a good head of hair, is my joke. All right, guys, we have our first question and our first poll up. During which stages of the sales cycle do you typically leverage warm intros? This is fun. Typically, everyone kind of associates it with top of funnel, but I think we've all experienced different various stages to leveraging it. So, Ash, in your world, in your role, where have you felt the greatest impact with leveraging it? And I know you don't like the word from a tactician's point of view, from a seller's point of view in progressing or generating a deal. Where have you found, and give us an example of the time that you've used a go-to-network motion in any capacity of the deal?
Yeah, like Ashley said, I have a bunch of examples. I think one thing that to me is super low-hanging fruit in this realm is when you're closing a deal. And it doesn't even have to be a closed one, right? Even if you lose the deal, this is the perfect opportunity. You have just gone through however long your sales cycle is with this person, these people. You've obviously built a relationship and some sort of trust. And whatever the outcome is, whether you win the deal or lose the deal, that is a perfect opportunity to ask, if there's anyone else in their network that they think might benefit from your solution. That is in my opinion, the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to this go to network motion. We talk about most people lean towards using warm intros and referrals for prospecting and top of funnel, but like this is the moment when you have built all this trust and all this relationship, this solid relationship. They know exactly what your product does and what problems it solves. They might have somebody in the back of their mind that's like, oh, you know what? Actually, yeah, I think you should definitely speak to Adam because we were just talking about this. They could definitely use something like this. And I've done that many, many times over. And it's great because not only do you get the warm intro, but you get somebody who's very familiar with your product. And if it is a closed one, you could ask as soon as they sign the contract, or you could ask after that first couple of weeks of onboarding, right? Checking in, seeing how it's going, how they're liking the solution so far, what results they've seen. By the way, do you have anyone else who would be super excited to experience this awesome feeling that you're feeling right now as well?
I love that. Actually, I know you are quite proficient in enterprise sales, which multi-threading is probably the biggest catalyst to progressing deals. In the sense of multi-threading, where have you applied go-to-network in a systematic approach? I'll choose my words wisely, to either bring in other individuals or even like maybe even some select decision makers. Talk to me a little bit about some of the ways that you've leveraged it currently, previous, anticipation.
Yeah. So in the enterprise space, sometimes selling to different departments is like selling to totally different companies. And so what Ashley was just explaining with asking for referrals is really important in enterprise sales, in like multi-threading outside of your direct deal into other departments. I have a relatively small deal I'm about to close with a really large organization right now, and I now have a champion who has sat me down and I said, like, I can refer you to all these other people. So like that person that I'm selling to is actually now my warm intro person within their own company. So there's that part, which is like, don't think so small when you're talking about sales when you're doing enterprise, because this massive organizations that have so many departments that basically work independently of each other. So that's one spot. Another thing is we're trained, especially when we're having like discovery and then demo and other technical calls or whatever that looks like, to say like, who do we need to bring in on the next call? Like we do that, right? And sometimes they'll name drop people, or sometimes they'll specifically say like, oh, add it to these invites, like add these people to the invite. And I think a mistake a lot of people make is by like just doing that and then being like, cool, and on the next call being like, okay, so we've got XYZ, like that, those people. And even if they mention like, oh, my head of X, even if they don't tell you their name, that's an opportunity to go to whatever you're using, probably sales nav, find those people, and then find the people you're connected. So like Commsor also can be used to find the people you're connected to, those specific individuals, so that you can then see if there are some like warm paths. Maybe my CEO is connected with this person who's now part of my deal, and I don't want to ignore that. That's like it's like a spider web, right? Everybody's connected. And just because you've got that meeting on the calendar with 6 people or however many people that are new does not mean that the work is done. Like you now are those, you have to treat those all as like a brand new person that you're using and leveraging network to make sure that those conversations are really valuable, warm. You know everything that you can know about them by leveraging whatever connections you have. So there's probably more to it than that, but that's what comes to mind at first when we're talking about like enterprise specific network alignment.
I would add to that like when you're using your champion to like maybe introduce you to those people, not just add them to the calendar invite. I would ask who is going to be most excited about this conversation and who's going to be our biggest detractor. And then when you do go and find out who's connected and who can do a referral in other ways, like it's your CEO or whatnot, we can really focus on like, all right, we know this person's going to be bought in supposedly, but this person's really going to be our biggest detractor. What do we need to do to get their buy-in?
I love that you brought that up. Adam, I know you've written your fair share of exec to exec outreach on my behalf in our deals that we've worked together. In a sense of influence and intelligence, as Ash brought up, right? It's more than just creating the introduction for the means of meeting. How have you reached out to other either execs or frontline managers, whoever that may be, to drive a little bit more tangibles to, get some more girth in that deal? Give me some examples on what you've experienced.
I mean, I think it goes back to not following a script and tactics and being personal. It goes back to knowing exactly why you want that intro, exactly the value that you or your product is going to be able to add, and tying that to the needs of the person who you're emailing. The one way you're really going to mess this up, in my opinion, is by using what I'll just call a sequence email of like, hey, Ashley, I want to introduce you to Eric over at Commsor. They have a great product for GoToNetwork, and I thought it could help. Dude, like, no one cares. Like, you got to get deeply personal. It's got to be why it's going to help, the problem you're looking to solve, why you should talk to Eric. And you have to make it personal. And does it take an extra 3-4 minutes? 100% it does. But if you want to get those results, that's what you need to do. Every time that I've introduced you to anyone, whether it be for interviewing or whether it be for the purpose of advancing a deal, it's been a crafted personal message. When I reached out to Mac, and I don't even know if you asked me to do this, like it was my experience with you from a personal level and why I think you would be a good fit. I certainly could have said, hey, Mac, Eric's a great guy. I think he'd be great at Commsor. He's worth talking to. Okay. Like what's great about him? Like, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, I still need to pay you for that outreach. But beside the point, something that's interesting is
5% of all your deals. It's very simple.
Oh, you're peeling it back. That's nice of you. All right, we got our next poll up. During which stages? Oh, actually, this is the results of it. My mistake. This is what happens. This is like that scene in I don't even know the movie. Anyways, point being though, is one of the interesting points that I was just leveraging is to an enterprise deal is I know that one of the partners of this enterprise deal happens to be Adam's client. And so one of the things I did is I went out to Adam to introduce me to that partner to try to find out some more tangibles about the partnership that they've had formulated. So that way, when I reached that disco stage, I had some more tangibles, some more parlay motions that I could leverage. So that way we can have more of a streamlined and a little bit more angled conversation, so to speak. So love how we're doing it. So the interesting part, I should say by no means is interesting, is that the majority here on the poll is saying that prospecting is the #1 use for GTN. Go to market or go to network motion is best served, or I should say most currently heavily utilized in generating pipeline. I'm going to step back. We were talking about multi-threading. I want to take a step back. Ash, have you leveraged it to the point of generating a deal before?
100%. Yeah.
That was a pretty dumb question. I love it. Tell me more.
So first of all, I will say I think of LinkedIn for myself as like my own personal inbound channel. Because I'm building my brand, I'm putting content out there, I'm connecting with people. And, for example, when I was at Chili Piper, at least, I don't know, 3 or 4 deals a quarter originated because somebody DM'd me on LinkedIn and was like, hey, I think we could use Chili Piper. Are you the right person to speak to? There were some moments when that was like, actually, this account is owned by another rep, or, I actually have to hand you off to, so-and-so. And for me, I love that. Like, yes, most of the time when I'm like, yep, I get to take this deal, like, I don't even have to like ask for a warm intro. They're coming directly to me. That's awesome. But I think what's equally as awesome is when I'm like, actually, my buddy Alex is working this deal. Let me make an intro for you. And then I get to gas both people up and just be like, this is going to be awesome. Eric really, is interested in checking out Chili Piper. Alex, this is your account. Alex is awesome. Going to hold your hand through all of this, get to it, right? Like that is one of my favorite things. But yeah, outside of that, I think if they're not coming directly to me, which is the ideal scenario, then it's, yeah, like Ashley mentioned earlier, being really strategic, understanding who you're reaching out to and why, and then doing the research to figure out, all right, who's connected, who can I ask for an intro? And I want to just say, like, one of the other things that that maybe is a misconception or we tend to think has to be the way we do this is like, it needs to be a warm intro to like a senior leader or a decision maker.
Mm.
Doesn't necessarily it doesn't have to be that way because end users can give you a lot of information. And maybe if I know Ashley's connected to somebody who would essentially be an end user of my product, I still want that referral, that introduction, because maybe I can build that relationship, which then will give me enough insight to when I do cold outbound to the decision maker, I'm gonna break through all the noise because I have the inside information. So these warm intros and referrals don't have to be like a direct, here's the decision maker, I know this person, let's connect. Because like some, that may or may not be possible. But if it's like, yeah, it could be somebody who isn't a decision maker, but you know that they have a lot of insight and information to share. That way, when you do finally reach out, you're going to get their attention.
I think another really important thing to call out, especially from this poll, is I think a lot of people are focusing on prospecting with GoToNetwork because nothing else is working right now. Like you said before, like pushing a button and sending out mass outreach doesn't work anymore. And if it does, it's a fluke. Let's be honest. Like let's be for real. And it's so much smarter to actually talk to somebody who has some type of reason to actually talk to you. So that I think is why there's so much of a focus on this because nothing else is working and we have to adapt. Maybe blasting out things in the past worked, but now it doesn't. And maybe doing just straight up social selling where we're getting inbound leads, which is amazing and does work, isn't working as much as it used to. Like there's a lot of things that we break as sellers because we overdo it or we just like do it the wrong way. And this one I think is around to stay because it's about relationships. It's about trust. It's about authenticity. And so it's not like AI is not going to take over network connections. It's just not going to be a thing, right? We're not going to be able to overdo it in the way that we've overdone so many other things. So I think that's one really important call out and why I'm not surprised at all to see that poll result because we're all like, I don't know a single person who is in sales that isn't like, I need more pipeline because we all need more pipeline. And this, in my experience in the past 2 years, is the easiest, fastest, most efficient way to get it.
So how do we enable reps to make this more of a first step than to hit the cold outreach button?
I can also talk about that.
I'm sorry. I was pointing to you. Forgive me. I'm sorry.
Oh, okay.
Please hit me.
Really important for there to be executive buy-in. I think that the best path, especially for someone who's got a brand new target account list or is starting a new role, is to leverage investors, CEO, C-level, whoever has a network full of people who like have let's be so for real right now. If a CEO wants to talk to you, you're much more likely to do that than if an AE comes and tries to talk to you. Like we're just very different things. So like that CEO and that board member has to be willing to make those intros. And I'm not saying they need to take the full reign of it. Like we can still ghostwrite something for them, whatever that looks like. We'll do the research on like why, right? But they have to be like, I'm here and I'm willing to do this, or else it doesn't work. And of course, we can use tools like Commsor to find other people in network. But when you're first starting out and an organization wants to make this happen, it's got to come from the people who are like big supporters up above and are invested, in my opinion.
Adam, let me pass the baton over to you, man. Since you've bought up $10 million worth of software, how would you suggest those who don't have decision-making power to either like present it to those to enable this to be the first point of outreach, to try to, I don't want to say recreate the wheel, so to speak, but to set some change in current motions based at their.
It is recreating the wheel. Listen, I build countless sales processes for countless companies. And if you don't have it encoded in your sales process, if you are not training on it, if you are not documenting it, it doesn't exist. It goes back to enshrining it in your sales process from the very beginning, to getting that leadership and that executive buy-in, and making sure that you're teaching to it and that it is inherently part of your process.
And so it needs to be enablement, bought in. Give me some sort of like tactical ways that a rep or like an IC, for example, can present it to their leadership to say, hey, this shit's working. Excuse my French. We need a course North Star differently.
Yeah, I mean, you just need to come with real world examples, and those don't have to be real world examples from your company. Like, we all know people who have sold deals through GoToNetwork. Every single one of us, every single person in sales knows someone who closed a deal that never would have closed had they not been walked into that room. And going to your sales leadership with those specific examples is exactly what I would do. Hey, Ashley, we don't have this motion. We all want to grow pipeline. We all want to grow closed revenue. Let's talk about something that my counterpart over, Eric's software is doing that's actually generated, XYZ hundreds of thousands of dollars in sales this year. And let's pilot that. But I forget which Ashley said it. If you think that pushing a button and sending tens of thousands of cold emails is going to work, it's not. And you're right. You might get the fluke. I was just talking to someone about this today. You're going to get less than a 1% reply rate, and less than 1% of that is going to be like oh yes, I'm ready. I'm going to buy right now. If you want your company to die, keep doing what you're doing.
That took a fun turn.
I might be a little direct. Sorry.
That's so unlike you. Ash, once a deal is closed, one, let me specify, how can sellers like leverage their new customer to then bring in more relationships and more opportunities through that newly formed partnership?
Yeah, like I was talking about earlier, the what I like to do is I set reminders for myself. First of all, hopefully you have a really close-knit relationship with your CS team, your onboarding team, your account managers, right? Because the worst thing that we can do is like get the signature, close the one, be like, all right, see you never. Because like I said, this is the lowest hanging fruit when it comes to, getting referrals into other businesses because they had a problem. You all addressed it. They decided to move forward with your product, meaning they believe that you can help solve that problem. And so if they know of other people or they're connected to other people that you are trying to reach out to, like they're going to be the best people to talk about your product. So anyway, I like to set reminders for myself at like 1 week after they've started onboarding, maybe a month later, and then within the first quarter, I'm going to reach out. I'm going to ask in that first week. I'm going to ask, how's onboarding going? What can we do better? What do you, how are you feeling? In that first month, I'm going to ask questions like, what do you think of the product so far? Like, and look it up, like look at their metrics, see how they're using it, see if you can find out results either from their CS or their AM, and like reference those. And at those points, it's a perfectly acceptable time, perfectly reasonable time to ask, by the way, I saw that you're connected to Adam, and like I'm really trying to break into this account. Like, would you be willing to make an introduction, right? And like, because I think we could do X, Y, and Z for them, right? And like that again, this is the best opportunity because ideally, like it's going well for them, they're seeing results, and they're going to be happy to make an introduction for you.
You bring up a few good points, but one of the things I've noticed, and this is where I started to kind of really get bullish in my early stage of career, before I knew even what the acronym of GTN was, is that people buy from people they know and trust, but more so they talk amongst themselves because the last thing they want to do is talk to a freaking salesperson. And so where we're seeing inboxes being more clogged than my neighbor's piping after a bad night at Taco Bell, and cold calls being more ignored than my wife does on a daily basis. Like, it's just one of those nuances that let's leverage them talking amongst each other who are going to be in the highlight, that pink cloud status of leveraging your platform. And so again, it's leveraging that in a very natural manifold. It's not even like to the angle of, as you early on pointed out, one of those tactician points of like, I'm going to leverage this because of. It's very much more of like the natural adaptation of connecting with one another. So
when we, like, as humans, when we're looking for a place to go out to eat, or we're looking for like a place to go visit in some new country you've never been to, what do? You ask your friends. If nothing else, you go online and you look at like Reddit or Yelp or whatever.
You ask your Yelp friends.
Right? Ask people who you trust to give you insight on like, well, should I go to, a Fury Ramen, or should I go to like Mikase? Like, these are restaurants. And that's like that was the impetus behind building Bravado. We knew that this like whole crowdsourcing information thing was not going to go away. And especially now, it's just gotten more and more and more important. We talk about it all the time. Buyers are more educated than ever when they come inbound for your product. They have not only have they looked at your website and they've, done their research on G2 or wherever else, but they've asked their peers. They've asked around, they've asked in their communities. That's another thing, right? Like leverage your relationships with people within communities, whether it's Revenue Collective, Women in Sales, Commsor, like wherever you are, there are so many communities, and there's always a tech channel where people are asking about, hey, you know what? I need a solution that's going to help me route my leads. Like, has anybody used Chili Piper versus like, Revenue Hero? Like, what are your thoughts? Like people are back channeling, they're asking these questions with their peers. And so that's another really great area for you to like, if I know Ashley's in that community and I'm like, hey, like I can speak up and say something obviously, but if Ashley pipes in and is like, actually, I've used Chili Viper, they're amazing. Like you should talk to so and so. Great. Like that's a win. Um, yeah, I think I'm talking in circles.
It's all good. It's all good. There's no wrong answer here. So here at Commsor, we've kind of dubbed 7 valuable, and I cannot, well, I combined 2 words in that one, so that's real fun. We've really established 7 different connectors that one should leverage and ask. Actually, I want to see if you can get these 7. Who are the right personas that you think that you could leverage or that people could leverage in order to generate or progress pipeline through warm intros? And I'll give you 2 to kind of kick it off: champions and investors. There's 5 others that we've.
I was about to say, doesn't this depend on what you're selling? But I get it now.
I
Makes
threw
sense.
the angle out there because I realized how vague that was.
Yeah. Champions investors. I mean, I would consider executives at your company one. I would consider peers. I don't know if that's one of them, but like
Yeah.
peers are like Ashley was saying, you can get so much information from peers. Oh, let me think. I mean, when you're saying champion, then I'm also like influencers, but I don't know if that's one.
Champion
So,
to the greater, to the greater term.
yeah.
Yes.
So I mean, those are the ones that come to mind. I'm gonna fail this test, but that's all I got.
No, it's all good. There's no wrong answer. So formal partners, investors, advisors, influencers, fans, champions, and employees / peers are some of the 7 best, and I use that term sparingly, but needless to say, those are it. So well, thank you guys. We're going to turn to a quick video that I am going to be surprised on. I have not seen, but Raina, our fantastic videographer, has put together. And so we're going to put together a little quick blurb here. Let everybody take a drink of water. Oh, crap.
Boy.
It's with me. Oh, this is going to be fun.
I'm a salesperson. I have a pipeline to fill. I want to book meetings. I want to hit President's Club. But I like you.
That's great. Thank you.
My manager likes you. You're a fan of you. I'll stay with you. That's what I'm going to do for you, but here's what you're going to do for me. Are you listening?
Yeah. I'm listening.
It's a very personal, very important thing. Are you ready?
What can I do for you?
Here it is. Show me the intros. Yeah! Intros!
Say that again. Show me the intros?
Oh, no. I want you to say it, and I want you to mean it.
Show me the intros?
You better yell.
Okay. Show me the intros, baby. Show me the intros.
Doesn't it make you feel good to say it?
Show me the intros.
Congratulations, you're still my salesperson.
That was the Jerry Maguire throwback I didn't know I needed.
Yeah, I'm not often speechless. That was awesome.
Appreciate it. I'm going to give up sales and go into acting. So thanks to Raina. But thank you all very much, honestly, for attending here and giving us so much information on how to leverage GoToNetwork, both to pipeline generation progression, but then also just like some of the more obscure and out of mind points. But one by one, you guys, I want to make sure that you guys get the attention that you deserve. Where can we find you? And most of all, what are you up to for the rest of the day? Adam, kick us off.
Oh no, ladies first.
Adam, kick us off. No, I'm just kidding. Ash, go ahead. Hit me.
You can find me on LinkedIn, Ashley Zaxt. And I have a PT appointment after this, and then I'm probably gonna keep looking for a new job.
Ashley, how about yourself?
You can also find me on LinkedIn, and that is probably the best place. I do have a secret book talk, but you probably should not go looking for that. I will be doing my day job, so selling app queues. That's really fun. I also am planning to go to the bookstore at some point today because that's my jam.
Adam, my friend, round us off.
I love it. Surprise, you can find me on LinkedIn. Also check out the brand new Revenue Reimagined website, revenue-reimagined.com or thegtmgap.com.
There it is, you guys. You heard it. Well, guys, again, my name is Eric. Not that anybody cares, but I am on LinkedIn like a 13-year-old on Snapchat, probably poking and making fun of others individuals. So go and give them a follow. But most of all, guys, go out there and find out how we could leverage your relationships and your network to get what you need. Talk to you soon.